But what I'm going to do today is recreate one of my old characters. And the old character I'm going to recreate. Oh my gosh, who's this guy? That's one of my characters. Okay. This is actually, um, I've actually been redesigning a few characters off and on for a few days, for a couple of days, the last couple of days. I'm going to bring out and I'm going to show you kind of what he looked like. And his character's name is Ringmaster. And Ringmaster is one of my oldest characters, probably, I think I created him in the 8th grade. And he's like one of my top people. I created Ringmaster, and at the time, I had a group of heroes I called the Justice Squad, because I wanted the Justice League of America, but that name was taken. And so the 14-year-old me just said, no problem, I'll just call them the Justice Squad, not the Justice League. And so that was the way I resolved that initial problem. Let's see here. Notes. Inverse. And so anyway, that's exactly what I ended up doing. Oh, I missed it again. Complete. So here we go. So now I'm going to give you let you guys see kind of a little bit of what Ringmaster originally looked like, so you can get an idea of what we're going from and to. So if you look here on your screen, you'll see that this guy in this kind of orange head here. This is the character. This is the Ringmaster, and you'll see he has a little bit of a ring thing here on his glove. And Ringmaster, he basically was my Green Lantern. Is how he started off in life. He was my I knew I couldn't do I was savvy enough as a 14-year-old, but I knew I couldn't do a straight-on guy with a magical ring. So I just called him Ringmaster, like in Lord of the Rings, one ring to rule them all. But I made them like rings. And I'll tell you, the original names for everybody here was this guy right here in blue. His original name was Ultraman. So before I discovered that there was already several Ultramen out there. Right here is Amazing Woman, and she was my Wonder Woman. Then I had Thunder, which is the bull-looking guy, and the ninja over here is Lightning. The girl with the S on her chest is Sagami, and the girl to the right is Matter Girl. Matter Girl and Ringmaster had pretty much the same powers. Thunder and Lightning had the same powers as each other. They were brothers, and they had like electrical powers, and they could run super fast. And the difference was that Thunder was stronger than Lightning, but they were both pretty much the same powers. Only Lightning was really fast, and Thunder was really strong. Amazing Woman had she basically was like Wonder Woman, so she had super strength. She's kind of like Ariel in the use of her powers. And so Sagami was the odd woman out. She had illusion powers. She could manipulate not only what you see, but what you hear, taste, smell, and touch. So she could actually do the whole thing and beguile you completely. So she was the only, nobody else was like her in the group. A few years go by, and I actually have all through the years kind of redesigned these guys off and on a few times. And this iteration you see right here was a drawing I did about, 3-4 years ago, but I haven't been completely satisfied. And so now I'm doing a complete new redesign. And so far I've got, let's see here. This is a drawing John Diligent for me on Nuberon. And he was the bull-looking guy. And Nuberon is Spanish for, storm cloud. And so I basically took the bull theme, which I have no idea what the bull has to do with any of this, other than I just wanted to have a bull guy. And gave him some armor, basically. And these hooves that he has on his hands, actually, whenever he's not using them, they shoot down his arm, and then whenever he does use them, they cover his fist, and he can punch them with like bull hooves. And I thought it was kind of like having like just like a extra power behind his punch. He has the control of lightning, as you can see. Actually, this lightning comes out in forms of horn in one of my versions, and that was his redesign. And here's my public service announcement for Nubaron. Remember, kids, if you want to be strong like Nubaron, don't drink too much soda. Listen to Nubaron, he's wise. Rayo is actually the redesign of. I'm going to go ahead and knock these guys out as I go through them. Of Lightning over here. He's the redesign of Lightning, and I like Rayo quite a bit. This is my first big redesign of him. He's wearing kind of a jacket with the lightning bolts going down the sides on either side. And I think they're going to be kind of like a bright yellow, or maybe a blue even, maybe a bright blue. I think that lightning comes out in blues when you look at the sky. Then here, Amazing Woman becomes Tomoe Gozen, and Tomoe Gozen is actually known as a female samurai. She's a very famous female samurai. I might have to redesign the skirt. Todd doesn't like the skirt, and I understand why. It kind of throws off the overall design. But she's a sword master, and but she can use pretty much all the weapons a typical samurai can use. She can use a spear and a halberd, and she actually comes with a horse. She rides a horse. Oops. Okay. Then I have the Uriel. This is John Diller's version of Uriel from the cover. So I haven't really redesigned him. I kind of like this costume. So now it's Nubaron's turn, and now it's Ringmaster's turn. So let's go ahead and get into this, and I'm going to collapse this down, and I'm going to bring up. I've already done some pre-research, and this is the way I like to design. I kind of like to design things. I like to do some research whenever I'm redesigning a character, because one of the things I like to do is sometimes I either like to connect my characters to like a historical character or a mythical character or something in history. So and then I also want to take a look at the imagery for things related to that. So first I'm going to do research. And what was I researching on him? I want to give him a ancient Egypt connection. So I researched pharaohs from the first dynasty, weapons, and I also looked at the pre-dynastic era. And I looked for a name. What was his name? What is his name going to be? Let me see how the chat's doing. I hope it's still there. Okay, so hello. All right, so any rate, so this is the research I already started doing, and to begin with, I came up with a name. His name is Sadiki, and it means faithful. And Sadiki is a name that I came across in a list of pre-dynastic and Egyptian names, and I liked it. It's interesting because Sadiki actually has a very Jewish sound to it. Tzaddik is a righteous man. He's a good man, and so Sadiki sounds very much like a tzaddik. So I thought that would become a fun thing to do is have that dual tie in there. Now this is not one of my other versions of the law redesign characters. I had this idea that I was going to make them all marshals, and I wanted them to be have kind of a superhero meets Wild West look. So this is my superhero meets Wild West look, and you can already see that with Ringmaster, I've already got him in kind of a helmet that calls us back to Paro, to the pharaohs, to Egypt. And I want to maintain some of this element here. I've already looked at some of the photos, and what I really need to do at this point is just go forward and try to come up with a design, because what I did with Amazing Woman's redesign was I took the elements that made her a samurai, but I didn't make her look like an ancient samurai. I took it and just sort of modernized it and made her look like more like a sci-fi samurai. So I'm going to make him look like a sci-fi Egyptian warrior, pharaoh, whatever. And I think that'll work out fine, because honestly, if you go back and you look at the armor and costumes and things that you have of pre-dynastic and Dynasty 1 characters from Egypt, people from Egypt, their costumes are pretty boring. They're pretty much half naked. They've got like a skirt, and they might have some sort of head thing that they wear on their heads, and a spear or shield or something. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take this. Really, all I got out of this design to the left is he has this kind of weird helmet thing that looks kind of like an Egyptian. Okay, so now I'm going to draw like an Egyptian. No, I can do that in a minute. Okay, so on a new layer, which I just created, I'm going to go ahead and start designing. And so what I like to do for designing is I just first start off and I just kind of just start sketching. There are some people who like to do shapes, and I don't have a problem with doing that, but here's one of the issues. One of the issues I have is I don't want to draw anything on him that makes him look like like he's got idols or representative idols from Egypt. That's just one of my criteria. I know it doesn't bother some people. So if I don't do that, then this looks weird. It looks like a weird hook thing on his head. So let's just ignore that for now, because originally I was going to have like a serpent coming out of the front of his helmet here, but that's okay. Now then, I'm going to throw in my, right now I'm throwing in my guidelines for my character. This is called the Loomis method, and I'm really using it more as a shorthand, to be honest with you. So here's the nose if I want to put it in there, and then it's the third, boom, boom. That would be where the jaw is, right about there. So I'm gonna throw that in. Okay, so there's his head. And I have to wait sometimes for my this thing to reboot. Okay. So now it might get to a point where I'm actually satisfied with the overall look, and I might actually put a general form down. Like I might just draw like a figure or something, or like this, and then I might go and throw my armor and everything on, and that's just kind of like to help me try out new forms of armor quickly. So I don't have to keep redrawing the form over and over again. But I'm not going to do that here right yet, because right now I'm just in the pure creative process of just sketching. Okay. So I'm going to continue sketching. So why in the world does a helmet need a face? I think it's a little bit freakier, because the face that you have here is non-emotive, and it just stares at you blankly, and I think it can be very intimidating. So I'm gonna give this kind of like faux Egyptian beard thing here. Okay. Now one of the things about this character is his real name is Bass, and the reason I called him Bass was not because he likes to fish, but I named him after a real lawman named Bass Reeves. And Bass Reeves is pretty famous because he used to be he used to be a slave. He was a slave and was emancipated, and then became a lawman. and he's really, really famous. He actually was the basis for the Lone Ranger, and it was based on it was him. But '50s they're not going to create a black superhero, so they ended up turning him white, even though he was originally a black guy. So I like the character. I always thought, man, it's a shame that nobody ever has created him as a character. I mean, you've got John Henry, who's a mythical person. I think he's mythical, and he's got he's got John Henry Irons. Steel is named after him, and so there are other people who actually do have who are mythical or who do have characters designed after them or inspired by them. And because this is the law, the book is about a group of superpowered lawmen. Eventually, right now they're just a bunch of kids who have just gotten out of college, basically. But the whole point of this is that they end up putting together an organization. They find that the superheroing thing is not super effective, and so they decide that they're going to go ahead and put together some kind of law organization, which they do. And let me see. For some reason, it's not these are not coming. Okay. I'm looking at the. I'm noticing there are no chats going on. Either guys are really interested in what I'm having to say, or you just give it up on trying to chat. I don't know which one it is. But anyway, so they've realized that just doing a superhero thing isn't sufficient. Not if they're wanting to be effective. So they decide to become lawmen and women, and it's sort of like marshals, whereas they're international marshals. They're a little bit like Interpol, only they're sort of the Interpol for superheroes. Interpol deals with non-powered heroes. They deal with the superpowered ones, and that's the direction that the series will go in. Is the process of them going from, hey, being a superhero sounds like fun, to, hey, you know what, being a superhero, maybe we need to try something else. So, based on this idea that they're going to be eventually develop into and I'm not giving anything away because the title is the comic is The Law, so I'm not really giving anything away yet. So the idea is that since we already have a group of people who are going to become lawmen and women, so I thought it makes sense to have one character based on an actual lawman, and so that's why I decided to make Ringmaster here. This is one of my other reasons for making Ringmaster a lawman. It's just real identity based on a lawman. I don't like those legs. George Brigman says you draw the torso first, then the legs, then the arms, then the head, because you want to draw the things that have the things that control the most movement in the body. That's where you want to start at. But everybody starts with the head almost, and I do it. And even though for years I've tried not to, I've wanted to do it Brigman's way, but I just it's hard. It's more exciting to do the head sometimes than to start with other things. So I'm going to do this. Okay. Now then, I know that the Pharaoh has kind of like this thing that comes over here. And they're like wings. Of course, this may be bad. Maybe I shouldn't do this because it's first to like Horus or something. So I'm gonna have to research that. But this is just me practicing and seeing what I come up with. And let's see how that whole thing interests here. Give him a cape. I don't know. I like capes. I've always been a big fan of capes. And I've always loved the way Todd McFarlane draws capes. But I've never been able to do that. It just, to me, I go, man, the cape's too long. I can't do the artsy thing that Todd McFarlane does with his capes. First off, nobody would believe it. Number two, since I'm not as good as Todd is, I I would never pull it off, I don't think. So as you can see, I'm just kind of, I'm fitzing around with it. Got the body in there, kind of. Overly muscular. This guy has a career. He has a discipline. In fact, everybody who's part of this team, so that we're calling the Law. We haven't come up with the name of the team yet. They all have specialties. So his specialty is architecture. He's an architect and a mechanical engineer, and he's extremely brilliant. And he's one of the smartest guys on the team. He may be the smartest guy on the team. All right. Okay. I don't know, some sort of wing thing here. Okay. This. Okay, there's one version of him. So I'm going to take this version, I'm going to put that away, and I'm going to just do a completely different version of him. And this time, let's just get everything sketched out so I don't have to sit there, and it takes too long drawing the body like that, like I'm doing a little bit at a time. So I'm going to just lay out the body now. Across, if you're on, I'm going to tell you that I was on John's live stream yesterday with the Canadian Buckler, and I got to say, I think Canadian Buckler would make a worthy sidekick of the Shield, Canadian Shield. Just my own 2 cents. I mean, a Buckler is smaller than a Shield; it's a small Shield. So you might talk with John. It might be a good sidekick for you. I don't know. Okay, so different kinds of big arms come down. Boom. Foreshortening mastery here. Everybody's still there. Let me know if you're still there. Go ahead and give me a shout out. Say, I'm still here. I'm still watching, listening. That way I can know that. I mean, it says there are 4 people in there, but I haven't heard from anybody. It's making me very nervous here. Okay. Now, one of the things I have to keep in mind is that because my style is more cartoony and it's more for kids, whatever design I come up with has to be really simple. And that may mean that I might have to redesign elements of it that may look cool on the surface, but I might actually have to come around and redesign elements of it. Good to see you here, Cross Comics. Okay, good. And if you guys are wondering who's the lovely sounding woman who keeps telling me stuff, that's my wife. I yell it, and I said, I need your help, because I had a feeling something might go wrong, because the last time I tried to live stream, like a month ago, something went wrong. Everything worked out perfectly in my online practice, and then when I actually went to launch it, things went haywire. And so I was afraid the same thing would happen today. So I asked Ayala if she wouldn't mind sitting in and giving feedback, and she did exactly that. So I appreciate that. I'm going to lighten this guy up a little bit. I'm going to change the color of my pencil. So I've got him in a blue here. I'm going to go ahead and choose a red. And this is going to give me a chance to sketch over. Okay, here now that I've given him a much smaller head. I don't like that at all. Okay, so it makes him a little more alien, which kind of makes him look more intimidating, I think. So let's see here. He's got the weird helmet. Let's see here. What else can I do with this guy? Well, I know. I'll just do. Let's try some feathers. Feather armor. Maybe it's dumb. But, you know, in the design process, you can try and do whatever you want to do. And why feathers? I don't know. But I think it might look kind of neat. Let's see here. There's always an impulse, but it's a circle in the middle of the guy's chest, kind of like, you know, Iron Man. I don't know. It's an easy design element. I'm kind of bummed out that Marvel has it for Iron Man, because now it looks like everybody's drawing Iron Man. Like when they put it in the middle of Cyborg's chest, it looked like they were copying Iron Man and not being original. Does it look good at all? Finger thing here. A little hook on here. I don't know why, but you know, it's kind of interesting. You can punch somebody and then the hook grabs them by the neck, maybe. Exaggerated Egyptian eyes things going on here. Be bold enough. That's the one thing that you're doing sketching phase. You gotta be bold. Like you can't think too much about anything that you're doing. because then you'll get stuck in your own head and you won't do anything. And so this is why I've got to just kind of like, scribbling is the best. You know, I found that for me, if I were going to, if I were actually going to just sketch, I always use pens. And the reason I use pens is because with a pen there are no regrets. You kind of have to just, you know, go for it and do it. So let's go ahead and give him some mighty commanding boots here. Boom. Let's see here. So now he's not looking much like a pharaoh at all. I don't know, maybe you think he does, but I think he's looking less and less like a pharaoh. But that's okay, he doesn't have to, I mean, that was just my concept. My concept going in was a pharaoh, but it could change. I don't know why it can't change. Maybe some of you are sticklers for things have to be what you say. I don't know. So, I'm going to turn this into like a bird is like diving down or something. So that's kind of neat. I kind of like this, but let's move on to the next design. And see, now that I've got this kind of pose here, and I'm going to use it to create some possibilities here. Now here, I'm kind of stealing a little bit from the samurai stuff I saw. These gigantic arm protectors on the side, but the arm protectors actually aren't supposed to. They're supposed to kind of like remain like in this position here, up and down. But for him, I'm gonna change it, and I'm gonna let them kind of flow along with his arm. You know, for my Japanese girl, hers will definitely act correctly. Okay. Probably the sidekick of the anti-shield, but probably not. Okay. All right. Does the Canadian Shield have a sidekick at all? Will he ever have a sidekick? Okay. Okay. Kind of neat so far, I think. See, I couldn't resist. I just put a little circle there. I don't know why. Why? In this case, it was more of a functionality question. I was just trying to figure out how to hold his cape into position. I don't know. I kind of like this look here. You guys will tell me what you think. I've wanted one for him for a long time and never got around to it, but the buckler did inspire me to finally give it a shot. I couldn't read that; it was too fast for me. I have to wait till it comes back up in just a second to finish it. So it sounds like you have been thinking about a sidekick for Canadian Shield. I think that's a good idea. He just seems to be a character that cries out for a sidekick. It's my opinion. I think he'd just be cool. I'm really liking this. I really do like this this look for him so far. I don't know. Give me your feedback. You know, I'm not selling the comic to myself. If you were to see a character like this, what do you think like so far? Would this be someone that you would be interested? Would you go, ooh, who's that guy? I need to know. Or would you be like, someone is a fan of Rob Liefeld, likes the big shoulder pads. I am a big fan of Rob Liefeld. I always have been. And the big shoulder pads are often something I struggle with not drawing because they're cool. I think they're cool. But I know not everybody thinks they're cool. You know, in some ways, Rob Liefeld kind of had this sort of like thing, like almost like he became like the Bee Gees. Remember the Bee Gees? That maybe some of you are too young to remember this, but when I was in junior high and high school, there was nothing more fun than to just kind of like rag on 70s disco music. And now if I have the cape might interfere with the skirt. Like, even though that would be kind of neat. I think we're gonna just decide that. So anyway, so I think Rob Liefeld, and the fact is that actually I enjoy the Bee Gees. I think they're kind of just some fun music, and I will oftentimes listen to them as I'm drawing. So I don't know if you can tell, but one of my weaknesses is designing stuff for legs. But anyway, so all that aside, I am liking this. Oh, I think this object is right here. This is my favorite so far. Let me see if I turn that off. Thoughts, criticism, critiques? He is not what you want. He is a pharaoh, but an Egyptian warrior. I mean, he's pretty much a warrior. I mean, he's a. He definitely is a warrior. And you know, truth be told, probably has like probably give him like a shield. Not a Canadian. I mean, not a shield, but a spear. Some sort. That might look a little better. Now he's grasping his spear. He's not just kind of doing it. Okay. I really do like this guy here. Let's go ahead and do an ink attempt. Let's see what he looks like inked. Okay. I'm going to turn that down, opacity down just a little bit. There we go. Let's see what he looks like inked. If we look at that brush big, I'm getting quiet. I'm just trying to. Yeah, do this. Let me figure out what it is I think I'm doing here. That chest thing looked kind of crazy. I don't know what I was thinking there. That's probably why it came out weird looking. So it says I have 3 watching, but I'm suspecting I actually have only 1 person watching. And the other 3 is made up of me, because I've got it on, and then probably my wife, because she has it on. So I think the only one watching right now is you, Cross. Is that correct? If there's anybody else in here, please let me know. I don't know. I kind of like this. I think maybe the legs could use some more work. He's fairly simple. Let me see here. See this. Oh, you guys tell me, what do you think? Cross, I yell at whoever else is in there. What do you think of this guy? You think he's good to go? You think he needs some more work? I mean, I need to do something with his chest for sure. Because that all those lines kind of don't make any sense, but that needs to be fixed for sure. And then maybe, I don't know if I need to do something with his upper legs or what. Egyptian Martian Manhunter. Okay, I can see with the helmet, yeah. You know, the helmet, the reason is elongated a little bit is because of the pharaoh crown, which looks different than this, but like I said, I'm kind of trying to modernize it a little bit. His leg set 4 is awkward because I don't think I quite figured out the mechanics of it when I drew it. So that's a good criticism. I mean, it should be a very dynamic pose. So I need to think about that. I guess I think the elements I like the helmet, the shoulder guards, the cape, and I do like the gloves and almost like the boots. The boots need some work. But it's not a bad first run at him, I don't think. Any more thoughts? Okay. Well, I think what I'll do is I'll call this a done for now, and I'll revisit him a little bit later today. I'm getting some notices. Somebody I need to contact apparently, and I also think I've kind of come to a creative dry spell at the moment because I feel like I've really done a lot with this guy. So I'm trying to do something weird. Okay. So, all right, guys. Well, thanks a lot for tuning in. Thanks for sticking with me, even though I had the problems at the beginning. I'm going to end it here, and then later on tonight, or possibly tomorrow, I'm going to go through and see if I can fix some of the problems. If you see any problems, now's the time to put it out there, and I will take those into consideration as I'm fixing this guy up. Otherwise, thank you so much for tuning in. This is Hillel Penrod, New Hero Comics, and I have been creating or recreating Ringmaster and turning him into Sadiki, the faithful one. And it's been a lot of fun. Rick, it's always great to see you. I know it's kind of hard to invite people to our rooms now because of the whole Yahoo thing, but I'm always interested in coming and chatting somehow, so let me know. And I will talk to you guys later on. Vaya con Dios, mi amigos.